Well, hello to everyone who's watching this video with us today. I am super happy and excited to introduce Sylvia. I found her online and she is the mom to 3 adorable kiddos. I saw all those pictures on Facebook and just a beautiful family. And she is involved in so much. She does so many things, but I have convinced her to spend a little bit of time today helping us get to know the life coach / therapist career a little bit better. So grateful that she has offered to take some of her time to share with all of the teens out there. So welcome, Sylvia. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you, Chelsea. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. And I'm really excited. Teens are kind of where I would like to spend a lot of my energy. So this is just perfect.
Good. I'm so glad. So I'm dying to know how you got involved and learned about life coaching as a career and all the other therapy methods that you do.
Um, I think I was one of those people. My little friend always shows up when I start talking. His name is Phoenix. I guess that's a kind of like I could spend the whole interview doing that answer, but I would have to say my interest is in teens, and I've always been that person that wanted to learn and grow, as an individual. So it kind of led to everything that you see on my profile.
Perfect. So how did you discover this career option? Did you know from a young age when you graduated from high school going off that this is what you wanted to do, or is it something that kind of evolved over time? How did you even discover it?
Okay, so when I was in high school, that's kind of like the age when they start to really try to find out, what it is that you like to do. So I graduated from high school, and some of the things that I was thinking I knew about myself was that I always wanted to work with people. So I kind of knew that was a no-brainer, and I liked the I liked in being in happy places. So those two things were the only thing I knew. And I used to go to the gym and attend fitness classes. And I really loved the energy that I created from being around people. And it seemed like people, even if you came to the gym and you didn't want to be there, by the time you were there for 15 minutes, you were in that energy. So I think that's where I would have started to think about, the being in a field where I wanted to help others. Because in the gym, there was times when, I was standing with someone and they didn't want to be there. So you would encourage them by saying something or, just sharing your truth. And it seemed to help people. So I kind of figured a long, long time ago that the helping people, being around people, and inspiring people was part of what I wanted to do. But to be honest with you, no, I didn't know I was going to be a life coach. So it evolved. So a little bit of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that process of evolving and at what point you just thought, okay, we're going to make this work. Just so if there's some teens out there that are thinking, I'm kind of interested in this option, but I have no idea even how to get started or how to go with it. And so as you've been successful with it, just as an example and, just to help others, give us kind of an idea of what that looked like for you.
Okay, so I'll start with sharing this because I think it's really important. I am ADHD, and a question always leads into me thinking what the best thing for me to say to help other teens would be. And I lose my focus. So if I do that, wheel me in really quickly.
That's fine.
So I would say that some of the things, would you like to know what helped me find this path?
Kind of what helped you find it, and then what actual steps you took. Like, where did you get that education, or where did you get that training, or was it something that you were able to just start offering and you just sought your knowledge through books or online materials or something like that?
That's a great question. So for me, because I had graduated high school, I wasn't in a situation where I had financial backing to go to university. So I started working, and I was really very blessed to see that some of the things I was doing I loved, some of them I didn't. So I started kind of doing like always an inventory of what Sylvia liked. And I was really blessed to have great teachers show up. And I think everybody has this, but we have to be looking out for it. And at first I wasn't. I didn't even see all the gifts in front of me. But once I started to tap into some of the, I wasn't loving what I was doing, but I was loving the opportunity to be able to be in a field, which was hospitality back then. I was a front desk clerk, of all the people that were around me. So I started investing in talking to people and asking them what they did. So I became educated. It seemed to me like a lot of the people that I had met were doing some type of sales and some type of promotion. So I started just reading books on entrepreneurs, and I started doing it. Back then we didn't have the internet. So I started reading a lot, and then I would ask people this question. It really was a great question. So if I was to tell the teens, ask people what book inspired them. And this is funny, but there was a book called Change the Way You Look at Things and the Things You Look at Change. And I think it's Wayne Dyer, and a really great, like, he was just an old man. He was like an editor of a newspaper, and he used to come in and have coffee in our hotel. And I used to just start chatting with him, and there you go. He told me about that book, and I started asking people. And the more people told me and shared with me the books, I started to read on my spare time. And I used to not like reading, so I had to kind of set a timer to read. And I would read. And of course, I had bills to pay. I had a rent and all that great stuff. So I never really did much with it. And then when this wonderful thing in front of me came into existence, that education was right there. I got to zoom in and figure out what I liked. And that's when I found out that I really love to help people and, help people to know how much is available. It's exciting. And that's this here. It's the internet. You're very blessed to have this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way, because back in my day as well, it was so much harder. You just didn't even know what was out there. And I think I came to a part in my life where I was like, you know what? My path didn't go exactly how I hoped it would go, but I wanted it to go better for the next generation and for my kiddos. And so I thought, you know what, we just need to find everything that's out there. And for those, we need to find those strong women, those women who have found careers that fulfill them, that make them happy, where they can share their gifts and their talents with others, but they're able to do this in a way that helps them manage their life, be in charge of their life and how they spend their time. And so that's kind of what directed me on my path. But I love everything that you're saying. So at some point you were like, okay, I want to do this. So how did you get going? How did you do it?
Well, I made it into steps, and I think that's something that I never learned in school. I learned on the internet, and I learned from some great teachers. I just became really focused. Once I decided, it's funny, because once I really was able to understand that I knew I wanted to help people, then I started to, like, for me, I'm very into faith. So I used to I would sit and I would ask, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And the more I listened, the better everything unfolded. And I joined study groups. I went to anything that was of interest. So back then, believe it or not, I lived in Canada, and I now live in the US. And, if there was a Toastmasters group, I went in and I tried it. If there was public speaking, I went in and I explored. If there was, I actually started a dream nature hiking program. And then I actually was teaching. I was telling you I spend a lot of time at the fitness center. So I asked if I could get involved in teaching classes. So I started to do some training, and I became a personal trainer, and I absolutely love that. What was unfortunate with personal training for me was if you had clients and they didn't show up, then I was left with that. But now the world is better, and it has more opportunities. So I still do basically the same thing, except for it's a different name. And I set up my business because I became educated. I kept learning. And now I put myself in a position where I have a system set up because of the knowledge that I, read. I take courses. I attend master classes. I attend anything to do with making my job better for me and for my clients. So I would learn how other entrepreneurs were running their business, and they had 48 hours cancellation. So you have to pay up to a certain amount. So you just learn and you grow. And I think if the teens watching this, I think it's absolutely brilliant that you're doing this for young people, because it's a true gift for them to realize that there's no limits and they can keep going. And I tried many things. I was a personal trainer. I was a dream nature. I started a hiking business. I did hands-on healing with Reiki. There was so many different parts of me that I explored, and they still weren't where I needed to be to feel like I was doing what I'm here to do. So I think it's great that you're offering this. And I think if you use every day and you take a step towards doing one thing, just one thing, and you're going to get there. That's it. It really is simple.
That's great. So help us understand a little bit what the life coach industry is like. I'm sure there's all kinds of different specialties.
Yeah.
So what are the different niches? What can you do with this career?
Oh, that's a funny question, because I had this conversation with my husband last night, because there's a lot of life coaches that are going into specializing in a they call it a niche or a niche. And I have I wouldn't say it's something that I really don't want to limit myself to, because I really like to work with children and I like to work with young adults. I teach at the university in my hometown, and I also work with women. I work with moms. I work with husbands. So I work with males just as much as I do with females. So my niche is just helping people. But there are a lot of life coaches that in my field that, they specialize in weight loss. They specialize in anxiety, depression. Right now, I think our children, and an area that I'm really interested in is, I don't want to use the word bully because it's not a positive term, but empowering the children to have a voice. And, we make a belief, and then our beliefs make us. So it's really important to understand that the way we speak to ourselves is probably one of the greatest gifts that we can do as a life coach. So there's so many different avenues in what I do. It's like sky's the limit. And that's what the beauty is, because if you really want to be like, Chelsea, you like to interview people, you're interested in sharing other people's stories. That's your niche, that's what you do. For me, I really want to, what is it that you need? What is it that I can help you with? And if it's, you have anxiety, or you have moments where you feel sad, or you're a person that, sabotages herself, I want to understand. We go back and look at childhood traumas, rewire things, and get you moving on that path. So the life of a life coach, the life of doing what I do is, you can navigate into whatever field is your field. And with that, there's somebody doing it. So it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just tap into the energy of someone there. There's so much out there. You Google. I actually looked at, I have a client that's, it's a new area for me, but it's about relationships. And I could go in and Google relationships, but I have to go back to what I do, and I need to go back and bring them to that childhood issue. So that's my expertise. So sometimes you have to be very careful, because you can lose yourself in always being that person that wants to learn and learn and learn and not do. So there's a balance. So that's the thing that I think is going to put life coaches, a step ahead. Learn, figure out really quickly what it is you want to do, and then just do that one thing, you know?
Just do it. So
Yeah.
what training, I know that you are a lifelong learner and you have been involved in learning and training your whole entire adult life, but is there something that stands out that you could recommend to teens as a really good resource for getting your feet wet and learning this industry?
I would say it's, if you know, because there's been so many great teachers in my path, so I can't really give to one specific teacher. I have learned from so many modalities, you know, from my yoga background to the life coaching. Um, I would say it's for every person, there's somebody that speaks to you. Just keep the doors open, because there is somebody. I did a training recently in hypnotherapy, and the gentleman that took the time to do the training with me, he traveled around Canada, and I just reached out to this man. I mean, it's a pandemic. What better time? He
Yeah.
said, sure, I'll spend 2 hours. I picked his brain, and I learned so much from this gentleman. He was absolutely amazing. He's in his probably late 70s. It was perfect timing. And I just acted on a hunch.
Yeah.
And
So
then
faith.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, so there's so many different, there's so much. Just keep making that step. That's all I can say to teens. Keep taking that one step. And even if you think, oh, you know, this isn't what I want, that's good. Then you know that's not what I don't want. And then you can kind of shift and go right back into what you want.
Yeah. That's so great. I love that. That's such good information. And I love that you listen. I love that you're prayerful and that you listen and you've just been guided. And I think it's true. We're going to find times where we explore areas and it just doesn't feel right. And some paths are a little bit more straight and smooth than other paths.
Oh, yes.
Mine is has been not as smooth as some. I mean, when you interview so many wonderful moms and so many wonderful ladies, they lead such beautiful lives. And sometimes it can be a little frustrating when you feel like your life hasn't gone as smoothly, but there's a purpose. There's something special about every single person. And through listening and through trying, you'll find it. Something will be out there.
One of my great teachers, Marissa Peer, she says the saying is, we come into the world with a knowingness that we're, you know, that we're great. We come in and, you know, in the training that I took from her, I mean, when we were kids and we would pee, people used to cheer for us and they would celebrate us. And then we went into life and it wasn't that way. We went into school, and for me, that was my hard times, and that was what I needed to go back and look at. And you know, the Sylvia didn't want to go back because I didn't want to relive all of that. But what I now understand with crystal clear energy, that you don't have to relive it. I already lived that bully, feeling like I didn't belong, feeling isolated, feeling like, oh, you know, I wasn't enough, and all of these things. And I didn't want to look at that. But when I realized that once I go back into those childhood traumas and review them and understand them and take my power back and then put into action the things that I teach, especially the young people. I have 3 children. One's 23, 17, and 15. And I mean, that's my inspiration. They inspire me so that I can help their world. And I'm sure you're a mom. I mean, that's what we want. We want, all you want as a mother and even a father, when, you know, is to see your children in a place of joy. So, you know, my teacher taught me that. I mean, we came out into this world feeling like everyone was supporting us. Everyone was celebrating everything we did. And then all of a sudden that was taken from us. And if you can go back and look at it and understand it from the eyes that we have today, it has become so powerful in my life. So that's pretty much everybody's path, I think, has something.
Yes, for sure. For sure. So how do you market yourself in such a competitive world? Because you do offer, don't you offer your services online, so remotely as well. So how do you get yourself out there?
Again, so this is something for the teens because you're so blessed. Look at this. I mean, Chelsea, you live in
Idaho.
Idaho, and I live in Maine, so this is absolutely a gift. And I think if you look at Facebook and you look at social media as a gift, then it becomes a gift. So for me, it's, I never really worried about marketing myself because I always believed, and I share this with my kids, the best person to sell you is you. You know more than anyone what your strengths are as a person, just like you know more than anyone who, what your weaknesses are. So for me, I really invest in, if somebody comes to me for guidance, I have testimonials, and I've been very blessed to do one session, and and it's the funniest thing because people actually go to sleep listening to my voice. And it's like, when I think of it sometimes, it's the funniest thing because it's not something I would have thought that I ever would be doing. And it's my voice. I remember when I used to have to listen to myself in my trainings, in Toastmasters when I was younger, I had to listen to my voice. I used to think, oh, and I talked to these people in UK and in Africa and in Texas and Oklahoma, and they have these beautiful accents, and they go to sleep with my voice. It's like, what? So social media, but for me, I advertise me by giving my clients the best of me, and I've been very blessed. Every client I have had sends me another client.
Mm-hmm. So word of mouth referral has been great for you.
Oh yes, so that's it. And if you would have told me a year ago I'd be sitting here doing an interview and sharing this, it's so funny. It's crazy. So yeah, to the teens out there, just keep making one thing every day, even if that one thing is to walk outside and embrace a gift of being able to do that. Something, you got something. Everybody has something, that unique gift.
So how flexible has this industry been for you? I mean, it feels like everything that you've done has provided you with a lot of flexibility. So I'm thinking of a teen who really wants to be a mom, but when you first start having those little babies, life is crazy, but you also need something to kind of help you be you. So have you been happy with the flexibility that has provided you? Do you feel like you're really in control of your schedule?
Oh, I am so blessed. And when my kids were younger, I was a teacher, and if I would have been able to do what I'm doing now, I know that I wouldn't be dealing with some of the things, so the young people today, you have this option. You can create your own profession right here in your own home, and make your own hours. So for me, it's amazing. I actually can do more now because my children are older and not dependent on me. But as a young mom, and I look at people doing what I'm doing because I have a network of really great, amazing people. And some of them are young moms. And I think, first of all, I think how lucky their children are that they are able to do what they love. Because when a mom is able to do what she loves, then she has more to offer her child. And moms, the role that we have today and the way the world is, it's just as important for a mom to feel like satisfied in a career as well as being a mom. And don't get me wrong, Chelsea, there are some people that they just love being a mom and they can take a time out and be a mom for a little while. That's kind of what ended up happening for me, because I wasn't feeling fulfilled going to work every day and leaving my children with daycare. So I ended up coming back home, and my husband and I changed life around a little bit so that I could work, be at home. And then I eventually, started getting a little bit more freedom, did the things that I shared, read the books, watched podcasts, figured out how I can make things happen. And so the flexibility of being a life coach, the flexibility of making a business that you love and doing it on your own. I think it's very rewarding for a mom, and mostly for our kids, because your children still have you and the best of you because you're the best of you, you know?
It's true. And I've seen a lot of these moms who have kind of taken on that mompreneur role while their kids were young. And so they watched it, and it's amazing because their kids are accomplishing so much, but
Yes.
still within the home, because
Yeah.
they saw that happen with their moms, and it gave them the confidence to do it themselves because they knew it was possible. And I think it's a little bit harder as a child with a mom that maybe didn't find that path, because then you're a little confused about how that role is for you, whether you have to only work or only be home. But yeah, we're so blessed to have the best of both worlds now. So can you identify any characteristics or strengths needed in this industry? Like any advice on how a young lady can know if this is really a path that was meant for her? Any defining characteristics from colleagues or people that you know that can kind of help weed through to see if this is a good path?
That's a tough question for me, because I think every single person is so unique in that same uniqueness that we were born with a gift. I think it's kind of like an inner radar, kind of like trying to figure out, like, you know, I always say it's like really trying to understand what you like. Therefore, you can kind of present yourself and open doors to what's of interest to you. So it's not, I don't think it's for everybody, Chelsea. I think there's some people in the world that, you know, they like to get up, they like to leave their home, and they like to go into an office building. And that's awesome, because then they're going to be their best self. I think that ask yourself good questions. And one of the questions I always, do in my own sessions is I try to find out, what is it that brings you? It's on my wall. I don't do what you love. I'm not sure if you can see that, but if I point it up really
there
high,
we go.
yeah, it's do what you love. And it's funny, because when I started doing this work, and I remember like young groups, I would work with little groups and try to find out, what I would give them a second to go on stage when they were, around 12 or 13 to do a little mini skit of what they love. And, they would sit there and they were so programmed to do what the teachers told them, the dance teachers, the school teachers. They really didn't tap into that creativity inside. So I think if you sit down with yourself and you get to know yourself without that, for me, I was a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. So if Chelsea needed me to be this, then we didn't prepare for this. See, this is like a live call. You're asking me questions. Sylvia years ago wouldn't have been able to do this. I would have needed to call you and ask you what questions you're going to ask me so I could prepare. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that today because I'm okay with who I am. So the question I would have young people ask themselves is, what do you like to do? And if that's being in a place where you go to work, then follow that path. And if you want to be home with your children and that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. And if you want in between, there's an opportunity. So it's like, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's just honoring your way.
Perfect. So, is there what type of investment or initial action is needed? Like, I know, especially in your industry, like it's so broad, there's so many options. But if there's just a few simple steps that need to be taken in order for you to like officially have a business in your home, what would they be? And is it something that's it seems like something that would be pretty cost effective to get going. And it takes time, but what are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think, there's so many great especially women in the world that have done this. And they say when you do what you love, it's not hard. And the word hard is exactly what that stands for, you know. So try to keep things easy and simple. That's what I did. I mean, the world has Zoom now. I mean, what a gift. We can tap into Zoom, we can do Skype, we can do FaceTime. So just start off small. If you do like interviewing, I mean, ask your friend if you could, you know, FaceTime them and do a quick interview. If you'd like to sing, you know, ask 4 or 5 friends if you can get together and do you know, there's so many options, Chelsea. And I think, again, I was trying to think of, when you asked that question, the one piece of advice, just keep it simple, you know, keep it, you don't, and if, listen, I work with a lot of teens, and this is an area that seems to be growing, and it's not a fun area, but a lot of people in our world today are spending money they don't have. So I actually have clients that I work with, and one of the things that, you know, school doesn't teach our children, and maybe it does in your part of the world, but in my part of the world, if you don't have 5 cents, don't spend that 5 cents. And even in this training that I did recently, there was people that actually put their training on their credit cards so that they can go and get trained and then make payments. For me, I would tend to say, put money aside, keep investing in making you the best, so that when you have the opportunity to take a training, you can pay for that training, and then there's not that pressure. Because I'll tell you, when you get in a cycle, I work with this young girl, absolutely stunning. I mean, she could be on a magazine for, you know, Vogue. She was absolutely beautiful, but what made her beautiful was her inside. I mean, she was beautiful on the outside, but when she started sharing her truth, you saw beauty all over this young girl. And she got herself in such a situation financially because she got into the credit card debt, and she was just trying to get out. And when you're in the situation that I see some young people, it's really hard to backtrack. So my advice to young people, and especially starting out in a business, take time to invest in you and put money aside. And we see this is like, I think this is one of the gifts of this pandemic, that people know you need food and you need shelter. I mean, if you can't afford to go buy a pair of jeans, don't sign up for a $300 class, because it's going to just set the wrong wheels in motion. So that would be my biggest advice, because I see it with my clients. And sometimes it's so, I mean, if you get in that cycle of paying, I didn't even understand it because it wasn't, but you know, I went back and I do it over and over and over again. These young people are getting into financial difficulties because they want to be somewhere else, and it's not a quick fix. It's taking those steps one at a time every day. If you have 5 cents, spend 5 cents. If you don't, put it in an envelope, and at the end of the month, you might have $100, and then you can say, oh, this masterclass is going to help me get to this point. Then invest. And then you're doing it, and you can click your heels, and there's no pressure, and it's wonderful. So yeah, and I do see that. I'm actually helping fellow colleagues right now who signed up for a training, and they're feeling that, oh. So that would be my advice. Don't spend what you don't have, and money is energy. So if you don't have energy to invest.
Yeah, that's so great. I couldn't have ended our interview on a better note than that, Sylvia. Thank you so much. I will be sure to put some information when I post this in the comments of how people can contact you and connect with you. I appreciate, and I'm just so happy for your success and for what you're bringing to the world. It's fantastic that you have found that gift, you found that talent, and you're sharing it. So appreciate your time so much today. Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Yeah, and you too, Chelsea. Thank you for doing this. And it's such a gift that you're sharing with young people. And if I would have been able to tune into you and listen to a beautiful interview to help, thanks. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.